This was Nika Shakarami, a typical shy teenager seen here singing karaoke with friends. She joined the protests and was killed a few days before her 17th birthday. Her family told the BBC that the authorities abducted her body and buried her in a village despite her parents' wishes.
Imagine being a teenager, only 16 years old, standing in the middle of a city filled with energy, holding on to your hopes and dreams. That's who Nika Shakarami was. But instead of chasing those dreams, Nika's life ended under mysterious and tragic circumstances, turning her into a symbol of the fight for freedom in Iran. Today, we're going to look into her story, a story that shows us the harsh reality for those standing up to injustice and the oppression faced by young people in Iran. Let's talk about what happened to Nika Shakarami and the impact she's left on the world. Nika Shakarami was born on October 2, 2005, in a small city called Khorramabad in Iran. She was just an ordinary teenager, smart, lively, and creative. Friends and family say she loved singing, drawing, and was always full of life. Like any other 16-year-old, she had dreams. But Nika was also growing up in a country where young women, especially those who want freedom and change, face major restrictions and even danger. In Iran, the rules for women and young girls can be incredibly strict. For example, women have to wear the hijab in public. The hijab is a head covering worn by Muslim women in observance of the Islamic religion, and there are strict rules about how they can dress and behave. These laws are enforced by groups like the morality police, who keep a close eye on women and girls. Nika, like many other young people, saw these restrictions and felt they weren't fair. She wanted a life where she could express herself freely, a dream that eventually brought her into conflict with the authorities. In September 2022, another young woman, Mahsa Amini, was arrested by the morality police for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly. While in police custody, Mahsa died. Her tragic death caused anger across the country, and people went to the streets to protest. Women cut their hair, burned their hijabs, chanted for freedom, and called for change. Young people, including teenagers, became the face of these protests, demanding rights that many of us take for granted. Nika Shakarami was one of these young people. She was inspired by Mahsa's story and felt compelled to join the protests herself. On September 20, 2022, Nika went to a protest in Tehran. According to witnesses, she was seen passionately chanting, and some even say she burned her hijab in a defiant act against the oppressive rules imposed on her and other women in Iran. That day, Nika disappeared. Her family searched everywhere, calling hospitals, police stations, and even morgues, desperate for any sign of her. For days, they had no answers, and the silence was terrifying. 9 days after she went missing, Nika's family finally found her, but in the worst possible way. Her body was at a morgue in Tehran. Authorities claimed that she had fallen from a building, suggesting either an accident or possibly suicide. But her family was suspicious right from the start. The injuries on Nika's body didn't seem to match a simple fall. Reports described her body as showing signs of severe trauma, with bruises and other injuries that suggested something more violent might have happened. Her family was heartbroken and furious, and they believed the authorities were hiding the truth. The family's pain was made worse when officials reportedly pressured them to stay silent. Some relatives were even threatened, which is a common way authorities in Iran try to silence victims' families. The Iranian authorities didn't stop at intimidation. They took Nika's aunt and uncle into custody, and under pressure they were forced to go on television to say that Nika's death was an accident. On TV, her aunt was made to say that Nika had fallen from a rooftop, and her uncle echoed this story. The family later said that these were forced confessions, statements they didn't believe but were forced to make. Iranian state media has a history of manipulating information, and many believe that this was yet another example. The authorities seemed desperate to paint Nika's death as an unfortunate accident, and they wanted the public to believe this story. But many people, including Nika's family, weren't convinced. After Nika's death, reports began to leak, with information suggesting that she may have faced horrific abuse before she died. Confidential documents and accounts from sources indicated that Nika might have been beaten by members of the security forces during her arrest. According to some sources, the abuse she suffered was extensive, leading to injuries that were inconsistent with the government's claims of a fall from a building. Human rights organizations have stated that Nika's case is part of a disturbing trend in Iran, where young protesters, especially women, face violent crackdowns. Her death and the government's lack of transparency paint a worrying picture of what's happening to protesters in Iran. The Iranian government went to extreme lengths to control Nika's story. In a shocking move, authorities reportedly stole Nika's body before her family could hold a proper funeral. Instead of allowing her family to bury her in their hometown, they took her body and buried it far away, possibly to prevent her gravesite from becoming a gathering point for mourners and protesters. This wasn't just about Nika's death anymore. Her family and activists saw this as a clear attempt by the authorities to silence Nika, even in death, and to discourage others from making her a symbol of resistance. This act of taking her body was a tactic that Iranian officials have used before, often with high-profile cases that could ignite public outrage. The mother of Nika Shakarami has accused Iranian authorities of lying about her daughter's death to exempt themselves from blame.
من با ایشون در تماس بودم و ازش خواستم که برگرده خونه. چندین بار باهاش تماس گرفتم. خب بارها جواب نداد، ولی چندین بار هم جواب داد و به دلیل اینکه توی شلوغی بود، سر و صدا بود و خب در حال به هر حال تظاهرات بودن و خب قطع شد بیشتر. و آخرین باری که من با نیکا صحبت کردم ساعت 11:30 شب گذشته بود، شاید بیشتر، شاید دقیق خاطرم نیست، ولی میدونم که یا 11:30 بود یا اینکه 11 و حالا بین 11:30 تا 11:40 شب بود که آخرین تماس رو من با نیکا داشتم و البته دوستشم و مادر دوستشم مرتب باش تماس داشتن و با منم در تماس بودن. بعد موبایل نیکا که صداش می اومد، صدای دوستاش می اومد، صدای داد و فریاد می اومد که اسم مأمورا رو می آوردن و در حال فرار بودن گویا. موبایل نیکا همون موقع قطع شد، یعنی خاموش شد و تا به حال هم خاموشه. همه می گفتن که اسمی ازش نیست، آمارش رو نداریم، فقط یک نفر بود که به ما اطمینان میداد و برای من بعد از اینکه متوجه شدیم چه اتفاقی افتاده برای من جای سوال واقعا که چطور این شخص به من کاملا اطمینان میداد که شماره ملی نیکا رو من دادم و میدونم کجاست. سپاه گرفتشون و آمار نمیده سپاه به دلیل اینکه تعداد زیادی رو گرفته و میخواد تک تک ازشون بازجویی کنه. جاش خوبه نیکا، جاش امنه، حالش هم خیلی خوبه، من کاملا خبر دارم و مطمئن هستم. من خودم رؤیت کردم کامل جنازش رو، بدن دخترم کاملا سالم، دست و پاها اندامش سالم بود، فقط اون بخیه‌ای که اون چیزی رو که برای کالبد شکافی شکاف داده بودن، اون بخیه ها و اون چیز بود، زخم اون بود، ولی بقیه بدنش سالم بود. انگشتاش، پاهاش، دستاش و بدنش سالم بود، فقط صورتش، گونه‌هاش شکسته شده بود و دندونهاش و پشت سرش که یک ضربه خیلی شدید خورده بود و جمجمش رفته بود تو.
Nika's death sent shockwaves through Iran. People took to the streets, chanting her name and calling for justice. Social media became flooded with her photo, and hashtags bearing her name spread quickly, both inside and outside of Iran. The young, especially high school and university students, saw Nika as one of their own, someone who shared their desire for freedom and their frustrations with the restrictive government. Human rights groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch called for independent investigations into her death. Activists outside of Iran rallied for her, and leaders like Prince Reza Pahlavi openly called for justice, blaming the Iranian regime for her death. The Iranian government faced mounting pressure from the international community, with many calling for accountability and for Iran to respect the rights of its citizens. But as the protests continued, the government's response remained harsh, leading to even more crackdowns and a rise in violence against protesters. Although Nika's life ended tragically, her legacy continues. She has become a strong symbol in Iran's fight for change. Young women, inspired by her bravery, continue to protest. Her face appears on murals, and her name is sung in protest songs, reminding everyone of the courage she showed. If you're watching this and feeling touched, remember that there are ways to show support. Sharing her story, supporting organizations fighting for human rights, and keeping the memory of people like Nika alive are all ways we can stand in solidarity.